I'm a forest ecologist at the Harvard Forest, which is like a research station associated with Harvard.
I mean in Harvard Town?
No, in Petersham. It's out in Petersham, but it's associated with Harvard University.
I see.
Yeah. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Before that, I was a research scientist at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is a Earth Science Institute at Columbia University. And before that, I was a professor at Eastern Kentucky University. And so I grew up north. I went down south for my master's degree, came back north after a while, and my time down south was really important because it opened me up to the diversity of trees that we have in the eastern United States. And since then, I've been lucky to work with colleagues from Spain and a little bit of Italy, and then I've been to forests in, there's a temperate rainforest in Turkey and the Republic of Georgia that looks like New England in ways.
Wow.
And I've been in eastern China, northeastern China, central China, and I've been to other places too. And I'm telling you all this because the time down south, though, but then interacting with colleagues from Spain made me realize how lucky we are in the eastern United States to have so much tree diversity. It's not as... In the northern U.S., our diversity is good compared to Europe.
Yes.
In the southern U.S., our diversity is not quite at the scale of East Asia, but it's pretty good. And
you mean in terms of intact ecosystems?
No, not... Well, we're okay in terms of intact ecosystems, but just the number of tree species.
Okay.
The southeast is nicely diverse. And so I'm telling you that because here in Maynard and in this part of Massachusetts, central Massachusetts, we're sitting in the transitional zone between southern forests and northern forests. So we're sitting in a fairly rich region, much richer than farther north, not as rich as the deep south, but we have southern species here that are natural and do just fine here. And we have some, northern species that are here. And so when I first moved to Maynard, I went to just explore the little green areas a little bit. And I was really happy to see southern tree species in wetlands south of the school, in School Woods.
Yeah, like what?
It's up here they call it black gum. The name is more black tupelo.
Okay.
It's where Tupelo honey comes from, Nyssa sylvatica. And the Tupelo is like, I want to say it's Cree indigenous word that means water tree. And to me it's an indicator of a southern ecosystem.
Okay.
Like it's not unusual up north, but it's more common down south.
Yeah.
But then over in Summerhill, that little green patch
I know it very well.
Well, the southern slopes, the south-facing slopes are very southern forest. It's oak and hickory with some other species. And then on the north side, it's a on the north-facing slope, it's a northern hardwood forest, yellow birch, some sugar maple, and a few other species.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So that's like, to me, it's it's a nice schematic of where we are in the regional landscape too.
Interesting.
It's where the southern and northern forests meet.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting on the south-facing slope is there's a species there, mockernut hickory, and I've seen it on other similar knobs over in Acton. It's really an unusual, less common southern species that makes its way up north. It doesn't grow much farther north than this. It probably goes up the coast a little ways.
Yeah.
But it's here.
Yeah.
It's here because of the soil in that area, I think. It's really has, you usually find it on richer soils. But again, it's a southern species way up north here in Maynard.
Yeah.
And so
and is that unusual for the towns and forests around? Do you think Maynard's an outlier in that respect? No, but that's just where we are. Yeah,
we're in this large, we call it an ecotone. It's where edges of ecosystems or edges of vegetation types meet one another.
Yeah.
So it's a transitional zone, and we're just sitting in the middle of it. But Sudbury is, and Stowe is, and I don't know how far north it goes, but to southern New Hampshire, you know, you can pick up some southern species, especially down in the valleys.
Yes.
But even at higher elevations, not really high, but you can see white oak in southwestern New Hampshire, and that's it goes up to Canada, but it mostly is then funneled through the low valleys.
Okay.
So, but anyways, in the northern normal upland forest, like where Maynard is sitting, we're right in the middle of this regional mix.
Okay.
It's really so. That was really exciting when I first moved here. But when I moved here we moved here in 2015 to Maynard.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, 2015. I don't know if you remember, that was a really hot drought in August, July and August. And I remember walking down here on Nason Street and seeing the trees not doing well.
Yeah.
A lot of leaves. I felt like I was in a western town. Dusty. Leaves were like tumbleweeds to me. And I was always, and I said, and a lot of the species were Norway maple, which are not the best street trees, and not native.
Yep.
And not that we should be totally against non-natives, but we have to be careful with what we do with our ecosystems. And I always want, well, we've got to change the composition of the forest here, of the town trees. And luckily Lee Eiler and I'm blanking. I'm so bad on names because I talked Kate Wheeler.
Yeah.
I talk to Kate all the time. I'm good friends with Kate.
Yeah.
I just blank on names.
Yeah.
You know, they started this kind of movement here in town. A little event at the library. They showed up and I got one of the trees that they were giving away. And then when the pot shops came to town, they helped steer the mitigation funds towards the trees. And then they helped form the Maynard Tree Corps and then the Maynard Tree Committee. And so it's been really a great effort. And I don't always remember when that started, but it was right around the pandemic. Right before the pandemic is when it started, I think.
Right.
Our first meeting.
So you're a member of both of those groups?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've stepped away from the tree committee, the town's tree committee a little bit. I'm like an adjunct member right now.
Yeah.
Life has gotten really busy for me. I have 2 young kids, and my career is going pretty well. So I just can't do everything.
So you feel like that's been a very positive impact on the trees in town itself. Is that right?
Yeah, and so if I wanted to start here, because we can walk a bit of Nason around the CVS and see what the group's philosophy is.
Yeah.
And why. Because our plantings are unusual for, and we can start right here. Our plantings are unusual, I think, for many street plantings because I don't know if it was Lee, I don't know if it was Kate, but in that early days, someone said, we'll have a downtown arboretum. And I didn't quite get it at that time, but now I see the value of that. And when you do something like that, you're saying our trees are special, which is a cool thing.
Yeah.
But arboretums, they're not stocked with a single species, right? We go to arboretums to see many tree species.
Exactly.
And so our plantings here are quite diverse. And from maybe a traditional arborist aesthetic, landscape architect aesthetic, it doesn't match because usually they'll say, well, we'll put a row of maples here and then we'll put a row of sweet gum over here or whatever the species are that people are interested in, and they often use non-natives. We have a lot, let's count the species. I've forgotten how many species we have, but I think we planted almost 8 different species.
Yeah.
And it's not the typical aesthetic. But I think it's important for many reasons. One, it makes the downtown, hopefully, I want to call it a forest. It's not a forest yet, but these will hopefully grow and spread the canopy and shade.
Right.
But they will be an arboretum in a way of a mix of species. So nice. But the other thing that it's really important is, as we were developing our philosophy of planting, we said we want to be diverse because the climate is changing because of anthropogenic, CO2 and methane and all that. We know it's going to get warmer, but we don't know how the drought, how the rain is going to change. And the general idea is that the wetter regions are going to get wetter and the drier regions are going to get drier, but it's not that simple. Nature is more complex than that. The Earth is more complex. So if we put out one species and the climate changes in such a way that it's bad for that species, we've wasted a lot of time and effort. So we put out a diversity of species because we don't know who's going to do best in the future climate. But some of these hopefully will do better than others, and they will thrive. But
and propagate.
And
hopefully.
And the diversity of species then also gives different habitat for insects and birds, right? So the local wildlife. But then the diversity of species in my little funny world is that they will leaf out and drop leaves and turn color at different times of the year. So it's a much more dynamic seasonal change.
And then the argument for diversity, so that the trees can adapt to changing climates and still keep a functional ecosystem going, presumably.
I think so. Like, say if we planted 12, let's say we planted 12 Norway maples, and it got too hot too quick, and even though it was raining a little more, the temperatures were too much, and 9 of those trees died, then we have a major replanting to do. We've lost some trees already, and one is on the edge right now, but that's kind of normal in planting trees in cities. But some of these trees are going to thrive, and maybe in 15 years one of these trees will not be well adapted for whatever the climate's going to be like, or the events that happen. Maybe that's replacing 1 tree or 2 trees instead of 9. That's a benefit.
And that argument about the incredible importance of biodiversity is going to apply to the entire insect population and the amphibians and everything else.
So we can walk down Nason Street and just start, and then right this first tree right here, this is
what is that?
Black Tupelo that I had mentioned.
Oh, okay.
This is a variety, though, a horticultural variety, so it's not the true Nyssa sylvatica. It's been adapted for city life because city life is hard for trees up north because of salt application, mostly. And so they can tolerate salt better.
It's a beautiful.
And you can see it. It's starting to turn right now. It'll turn a beautiful red.
Yes, it is.
So this is one of the.
It's very sweet.
This is one of the first trees to turn color in the fall. And so this one's starting right now. That's fairly natural. Nice. It'll turn a beautiful red.
That's
shiny.
Lovely.
Well, there's some orange and yellow that come with it.
Isn't that a beautiful oak?
What
is that? That's not our usual.
This is swampoid oak.
Okay.
And so in the probably around the world, but I can only speak to the U.S. Those are beautiful acorns, aren't they? The Royal Landscape. We learned that the best trees for city planting are trees that grow naturally in wetlands, because their roots are restricted because of the high water table. And so one of the biggest threats to trees in downtown is the limited space to send out their roots. So wetland trees do better.
What a surprise.
So Nyssa sylvatica, the black tupelo, black gum, is a wetland tree, but it also can grow in dry rocky sites on edges of mountains. Swamp chestnut oak grows here naturally in Maynard. I've seen it in a lot of wetlands here. And we've planted 2 of them now, and they are gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
This is not what I expected. And their bark is, it's going to have beautiful texture.
Absolutely.
So as they get bigger, and each tree has different leaves and different structures in their canopy, but they have different bark too. And so, again, it's not going with the aesthetic of a lot of landscape plantings, but it's going to give us diversity in aesthetics. Beside the bottom.
So this is pretty. Wow.
This is a type of sweet gum, like the black tupelo. It's a horticulturally derived, so it's not the original sweet gum. It's not supposed to produce fruit, but you can see this one's producing fruit. This is
Yeah.
This is the one thing people don't like about this species, so we'll have to sweep it up when it starts producing. But you can see the leaves are like maples. You can...
Very pretty.
You can... I suggest you can smell it. It's really spicy, wonderful scent.
Edible?
I don't know. It probably wouldn't hurt you too much, but I've never heard of people eating it. And then you can see the leaves are starting to change.
Yes.
I've seen sweet gum have 3 different colors in the fall, or sometimes 4, like ranging from almost burgundy to yellow to red and orange.
Oh,
so this is going to be a very beautiful tree.
And they are looking fantastic,
yes,
these trees.
They're doing really well, these are. This one is called... there's a lot of names for this species. I like to call it musclewood, or the New England name is blue beech. And it's hard to see right now, but it's got very smooth bark like a beech tree.
Yes.
But when they get older and bigger, and when there's less foliage, some branches look like someone's arm that's flexing.
Okay.
So it's musclewood.
Yeah.
And it grows in wetlands, so it's going to do well here. It's not... Some people have taken to pruning it themselves, which was not a good thing. So this tree, because it's next to a parking spot, annoys some people, and so it's got to grow up and over, and will grow with it.
Yes, people can trust it for a little while. Be good.
And what I didn't know about this species, I've known this species for a long time. It's again more of a southern species. When it turns color, it turns to a pinkish, light pinkish red hue. It's a really unique color that I never paid attention to until a few years ago.
Lovely.
It's it turned a nice color last year.
So are you thinking that this will inspire people in the gardens around to plant in a sort of similar fashion? Is that one of the objectives?
I think so.
The number of trees you're going to get in a town are fairly limited, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think so. We have MaynardTrees.com. We have a document there that has our philosophy, and we have recommended trees for people to plant in their yards.
Okay, I'm going to put a reference.
And a lot of these species are from that list.
Yeah, okay.
Not all of them, but a lot of them are. This is tulip poplar, and this is a tree that's puzzling us this year. It's obviously not doing well.
Yeah.
Last year this tree looked wonderful.
Yeah.
And so after the first year it looked good. This year it's hurting, and I don't know what to make of it. It's looking like it's recovered a little bit, but it doesn't look really well right now.
No. Absolutely.
It's stressed, and we don't know. You know, trees are
diseased. You don't think it's diseased?
No, there's a better one around the corner. You can see what it's supposed to look like. But this one looked great last year.
Yeah.
The one around the corner looked terrible. We watered it. The one around the corner is doing fine. This one's not doing well. It's an experimentation. This is the one of the exotic species that we planted. We've heard that it was a request from a local business owner, which is, you know, we're flexible. We're not, rigid about things. This is ginkgo.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a male, because the fruits on the female smell like dog poo. But it's been proven around the world to be a great street tree. It can handle the pollution. It can handle the roots limitation.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is going to be fun about this tree is what ginkgo does is it turns bright yellow, which is beautiful in the fall.
That's right.
But then it drops almost all its leaves at once. And so we could have like a contest in the future. We could have a raffle, and when will this tree drop its leaves, and we could raise money.
Yeah.
To have a little contest, and we'd watch the tree drop its leaves.
I like it.
It turned yellow and dropped last year, and it has more leaves this year, so it's looking pretty good so far. It is expected to do well. This is another tree that, again,
a little peaky
within the group that people wanted to plant. This is the London plane tree. Yeah. Which is
Is that?
Yes.
Is that what those are?
Yes.
Those guys over there are the same, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Now you'll see that the leaves aren't doing well.
London plane doesn't sound very native.
No, it's not. It's a hybrid, and they don't actually know when that hybrid came about.
Okay.
It's hundreds of years ago. It's been planted around Europe.
Yeah.
It's been shown to be a really good street tree. The problem that this tree is suffering, and the smaller one across the street more, but even the bigger one is showing it, is there's a disease called sycamore anthracnose. And cool, wet springs delay the leafing out because the anthracnose inhibits leaf development. And it's got to get warm, and it's got to get dry, and then leaf development happens as normal. So when you drive around in the spring, and you look at our sycamores, they're not doing much, or they're one of the last trees to leaf out. That's not natural, that's the disease. And I've heard stories that enough of that will kill the trees.
Yes.
We've had a very wet summer.
Yes.
And it shows in the leaf. This is probably, I don't know for sure, this is probably the anthracnose.
I see.
Just really hurting. Oh, this pot shop went out. I didn't notice that. Oh, well. We had 2, so we didn't need.
Yes.
Anyway, so that one was doing really well last year during the drought, and this year it's struggling, but that's what we should expect of these species. This is another swamp white oak.
Yes.
So the other one,
Lovely.
this one
I
looked
really
like the
like
other
that.
one last year, and now the trees are in a period of adjustment. So we watered them heavily last year.
Yeah.
Their first full summer. I think it was last year.
Yeah, no, I know. I saw the people out here day after day in the heat watering.
So we're done watering them because what we have learned is when trees grow fast, they die younger. Then when trees that live the longest typically are some of the slowest growing trees in the forest or in the landscape. And so people have finally started pushing this idea with, I know of someone who pushes it, I believe in it too. So we don't have the time or resources to water them, but you probably shouldn't water your trees after the first year. Once they're established, let them take care of themselves.
I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
We just planted a couple of trees too.
Yeah, so water them the first year as needed.
Yeah.
Maybe water them in the following spring if it's a hard year, but after that, trees can take care of themselves.
Okay.
And they will.
Even in this drought,
well,
sort of when you get,
they can adjust. Trees are way more adaptable and plastic than I think most people give them credit for. And the thing I think about, it's kind of a joke, but I think of trees as leafy goldfish, right? So the story is if you have goldfish in a small bowl, they stay small. You put them in a bigger bowl, they get bigger, right? And this is the same thing with trees. When they're growing on rocks on the top of a mountain, they do not become the full self. They are not big trees. They can live hundreds of years, but they won't be much bigger than this sometimes. And so I think that's the approach we have to think about city trees. Let them find themselves, establish themselves, adapt to the environment, which I think we'll see in the next tree a little bit. But this is a swamp white oak. It was beautiful last year. It's looking pretty good this year. You know, it's August. Oh, it's September, isn't it? So we're getting towards the end. Trees are going to start investing less in their leaves.
Right.
And so...
So you don't water trees in fall?
You do water them in the fall, but we're not going to water these anymore. Because they should be on their own. We don't have the time or money, honestly. But it's probably not good for them.
That's
once they're established after a year. So this is a white oak, and you could see there's dieback, right? And that middle brown. It doesn't look great. It might make some people nervous, but when I drive by and I look at this, I go, it's adapting to where it's living right now. So some branches are gonna die. You know, because when we receive a tree from a nursery, it's been watered regularly. It's been given lots of nutrients. And so that first year, it's just like, aha, I'm really growing. But they're almost a little shaggy. They're almost, there's something in ecology called I forget what the name of it is. It's when an ecosystem produces more than what's expected, which I don't really believe in that term because I don't think we know what we should expect out of ecosystems. But I think when we get trees out of nurseries, they are at the full nitrogen, nutrient, water
Right.
cells. So
Yeah.
they've got a big crown.
Right.
And when you plant them out in these environments, there's going to be some dieback.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to worry about.
I see.
Now, next year, if the lower branches start to die and there's only a few leaves up top,
You'd
then
be
I
worried.
have some concern.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have to think about that.
Yeah.
But to me, the tree is telling us what it can sustain.
Yeah.
And it'll develop
Yeah.
itself over time.
Right.
But this turns beautiful burgundy red in the fall. White oaks can have a range of colors,
Yeah.
but this one turned a beautiful color
Yeah.
last fall. So
Nice.
it'll turn colored later than most of the other species, and it'll be its own color itself. So this is one where I think we might have made a mistake, because there's a lot of this is experimental planting, but also we're not sure that this was planted well when it was first planted. And so we've done some trimming of the roots that were at the surface. We did extra watering last year when it wasn't looking good.
What is it?
I'm sorry, so this is a tulip poplar.
Okay.
Just like we saw the one that was really struggling last year.
Yeah.
Tulip poplar might not be the best street tree, but there's a chance that it could do well. We watered it extra
Yeah.
last year and when it wasn't looking good, and you know, some branches have died, but this has got to be one of the hottest spots in Maynard, right?
right.
You've got pavement all around us.
Yeah.
You've got direct sun in the south and the southwest. This is a really hot part of the
Yeah,
town.
it's asking a lot, isn't it?
We're asking a lot, and this tree usually does better in slightly wetter environments. So this is really on the edge of what can be done downtown. So we
Right.
got to watch this tree.
Yeah.
It's actually well, it was a wet year this year, right?
Yeah.
So it did okay this year.
Yeah.
We're just gonna watch it. We might lose this tree,
Yeah.
but we'll replace it.
Right.
But the idea of some of these two oaks and this tulip poplar is a lot of traffic comes to town on 117 or on Main Street, and we want to grow a big canopy. Because what I
Fantastic.
haven't talked about is
Fantastic.
the economic value of trees in downtown.
Yeah. Tell us a little about that.
So, research is done that shows that stores sell more when it's a well-treed environment. Rooms that are for rent in neighborhoods, apartments that are well-treed have higher value. So they are rented at a higher price.
Yeah.
People stay there longer.
Yeah, it makes
They
sense.
don't stay open as long. So houses that have trees, neighborhoods that have trees are usually valued at higher rates. So all of this is, there's just a lot of research that shows that when we put trees in cities and let them grow to fuller sizes, it's just a better benefit for
Absolutely.
the economy, and then it's healthier for people.
Absolutely, and the cooling factor may become enormously important.
Yes, that's right. And
Yeah.
and the research shows that it's not a linear impact
Yeah.
over time. That at first you don't get as much, but as the trees develop, that benefit of cooling
Right.
exponentially increases over time. So in 5 years you get an effect, but in 15 years you get a much greater effect. And so we have to give these trees time to develop and expand, and
Yes.
we'll feel the difference.
Yes, another reason to plant trees and let them get old.
That's right. That's right. And so
Yeah.
these are bigger trees. There's more space.
Yeah.
There's not rooting space, but there's more space for a tree to grow, and those sidewalks wider. But it's also to give the idea that we will have a forest canopy.
It is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And a vision for Maynard
Yeah.
and all the way down.
That's right. We have plantings of trees. There's one in front of Sanctuary. It's got the yellower leaves right now. That's again a horticultural variety of elm. The American elm, has the disease and is really barely holding
Right.
on. It was an important street tree in the 50s and 60s. It's pretty much gone, but they've developed a horticultural strain that should be more disease resistant. And so that could be a beautiful big tree in front of Sanctuary, giving lots of shade in the future. Let's hope. And so down Main Street, we've planted. There's another elm down there. There's another black tupelo. We've lost a couple trees down there. They're going to be replanted, hopefully this fall, maybe in the spring. But we're going to keep growing this. But we've added. I didn't even keep track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 trees here on Nason, and then 1, 2, one's missing, 3, 4. I think 5 on Main, so that's 14, 15 trees. I've lost track. And the number of species are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've planted 8 different species.
And you can just imagine, you know, all of these trees in 15 years' time will be completely transformed town.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And the colors and the shapes of the trees will be different throughout the year, so there's going to be just so much more to appreciate.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that for Maynard.
Well, it's all of us.
Yeah.
The Maynard Tree Corps has done a lot. The Maynard Tree Committee is doing a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a nice team
Yeah.
of 5 to 10 people. I don't know, you know, we've had some people rotated in and out.
Right.
But everyone's contributed.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an expert to be on the Tree Corps.
Yeah.
We accept anyone who cares about trees and cares about Maynard.
Yeah.
That's our only goal right there.
Yeah.
Really. It's not much more than that.
Yeah. That's very nice.
Yeah. So, we could, if you have any questions about the downtown, or we could head to my house where I've taken this to an exponential
Yeah,
level.
I want to see that. Definitely got to have time to see that.
Or they should, or they're learning about it. Downtown, we live out in the edge of Maynard, and there's lots of trees, and downtown is probably 2 or 3 degrees warmer than where we live.
Oh, because what did you call it? The urban?
It's called the urban heat island.
Okay.
And it's an idea. We used to think it was only big cities because you have these surfaces that absorbs the heat. There's nothing, not as much reflecting it. This is why they're planting a million trees in New York and Philadelphia and all the other major cities. It's been studied in academia for 20 years or more now, and so downtowns and cities with fewer trees are much warmer than neighborhoods with trees or the surrounding suburbs and countryside. It's been shown to affect local temperatures, but it might actually affect rainfall patterns downwind. Like it's.
I mean, even locally, even in a small area like Maynard.
So after the first studies were in big cities, and then about 5 to 10 years later, people started studying small towns. And they're like, it happens in these small towns too.
Okay.
So I don't know what Maynard's heat island is, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
And I was in a town of 30,000 people in Kentucky that didn't have enough trees. And I had a colleague there who measured it, and it's significant. It's 5 to 7 degrees warmer downtown in a city of 30,000 people than in the suburbs.
Right.
So trees will help reduce that heat island, as it's called.
Right. That's really, really significant.
Yeah. The benefits of trees, we know about the health and the aesthetics do a lot for us personally.
Yes, that's right.
The air quality, the water quality. A lot of people know these things or they're learning about these things now.
Yeah.
My guess is there's benefits that we have not thought about or measured yet.
So we're coming, you know, there's a climate action plan in the works, right? Do you have ideas about what should be in it?
No, I haven't thought as much about. You mean climate action for the region, for the
Maynard.
town?
Maynard is coming up with a climate action plan.
Oh yeah, no. I believe that restoring trees and forests is really so fundamental.
Right.
But it's also we have Justin, head of DPW, wanted to get a bioswale down here in front of CVS, where it's basically you remove some of the sidewalk, not a lot, but it catches the water flowing off down the sidewalks, and it collects, everything that's running, and it absorbs the water that otherwise would be flooding down the street. Remember when we got 4 inches of rain the other day?
Yep.
We need more surfaces that will absorb that.
Yes.
Because those big rainstorms are just going to happen more and more. That 4-inch rainfall was incredible.
Yes.
I slightly enjoyed it, though I was slightly scared by it, because that's climate change.
Yeah, that's right.
These are southern rainstorms that are happening in New England now.
Right.
When I moved to Alabama 30 years ago, that was the first time I experienced rainfall like that.
Right.
And now it's here. So I've seen it transition.
Right.
So anything that intercepts the water, because the big impact will be the heat, so trees will help. The more we can tree this area will help reduce the heat.
Yeah.
But anything that helps absorb water naturally will do. We don't have time, but I can show you, even in our treed neighborhood, though, the effects of impervious surfaces in our neighborhood is eroding the natural area that's below our neighborhood. I've seen where the water gets focused and dumped into the natural area. I've seen it. It's incredible.
It'd be nice I'd like to see that. That'd be great.
I can point you to it.
Yeah.
It's easy to find. You won't miss it.
Yeah.
But I think diversity in plants, I believe in that. And I think we could call it a climate plan, action plan, which I think it should be, but it benefits people. It benefits us.
Yeah.
The people on Railroad Street or across from the mill?
Yeah, I know where you mean.
They are facing the blazing sun.
Yes.
And there's no shade there.
Right.
That's really, so there's a lot of environmental justice that we can do in this town.
Right.
But just simply like in front of the theater, the Maynard Tree Corps, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? They had the concrete pulled up.
Yeah.
Put in a butterfly, a butterfly garden essentially.
Yes.
All those little things will add up. Water will be absorbed in that space instead of rushing across the parking lot.
Right.
And the more we can do that, the better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So, did I send you my address?